Cutting your sales cycle in half sounds pretty impossible, right? But that's exactly what Sandler Trading did with HubSpot. They used Breeze, HubSpot's AI tools, to tailor every customer interaction without losing their personal touch. And the results were pretty incredible. Click-through rates jumped 25%, qualified leads quadrupled, and people spent 3 times longer on their landing pages. You can go to HubSpot.com to see how Breeze can help your business grow. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to June. It's June 2nd. I'm Jon Weigell here with Josh Muccio from the Pitch Podcast, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. Pitching to venture capital investors has become difficult in today's climate. Gone are the days of VC money being thrown around at any new startup with a decent idea. So today, in order to get that sweet VC funding, you gotta hit them with a compelling pitch. How do you do that though? Thankfully, we have Josh Muccio from the Pitch Podcast on today to give us some tips and insights into pitches. We'll get to that in a bit, but first, let's give you the news in business and tech. Starting off with the tech, a new development in eyewear tech that's not Meta and Ray-Bans working together. Scientists at the University of Science and Technology developed contact lenses they claim will help people turn infrared light into visible light. A senior researcher there said their work, quote, opens up the potential for non-invasive wearable devices to give people supervision, which both sounds pretty cool and like an eventual boon for the global almost $200 billion eyewear market. Researchers believe it could also help people with color blindness to once again see colors. Next up, in some sports news, Paris Saint-Germain took the UEFA Champions League crown over the weekend, which is Europe's top soccer trophy, sure, but also is the most lucrative. With the win, the team's Champions League haul ballooned to an estimated $170 million. Good for Paris. Next, in some odd product news, actress Sydney Sweeney has partnered with men's soap brand Dr. Squatch to sell soap containing her bathwater. It was only a matter of time, folks. Sydney's Bathwater Bliss will be available online for a limited time at $8 per bar, in bar form, no less. And finally, all the Swifties probably already know this, but for everybody else out there, Taylor Swift bought back the masters for her first 6 albums, which record label Big Machine sold to music exec Scooter Braun in 2019, which Braun sold to private equity firm Shamrock Capital for $300 million. Swift now owns all of her music, whereas before she could only re-record her albums, hence her, Taylor's version releases. So congrats to her. Okay, look, side hustles fail when they consume all of your time. I mean, every single bit of it. The pros, though, work smarter with AI doing all the heavy lifting. To help you out, we just dropped the Side Hustle Accelerator database. You can search your exact problem for your side hustle, grab the perfect prompt, and get results. If you're struggling with marketing, content, and customer service, it's all solved in just seconds. This isn't just another tool, guys. It's your unfair advantage in a spreadsheet. So stop asking AI the wrong questions and start scaling with what actually works. You can get it for free in the link in our show notes, and you can stop right now, actually. Why don't you take a look down at those show notes and tap the link. You don't want to sleep on this. Okay, our main segment today, we're joined by Josh Muccio, and today we're going to talk all about pitching VC firms, things you got to know, things to not do, and things that have proven successful for others. Let's get to it. Welcome, Josh. How are you doing today? Thanks for being here.
I'm amazing. Thank you for having me.
Yes, you are amazing. And today, I wanted to use your amazing brain to talk about VCs. I want to talk about pitching. You've heard hundreds on your show alone.
So many pitches.
Yeah, so many. So in all those pitches, what do you think is the single most common mistake that you see founders make when pitching to VCs for funding?
There's so many, but I think the biggest thing is that they try to pitch VCs and tell them what they want to hear, which is good. You have to tell them what they want to hear, yes, but first you need to really tell a story.
Right.
Because VCs are just back to back meetings, pitches, meetings, decisions, emails. Like it's just a blur after a while. And if you don't tell them something on their call with you or their meeting with you that they're going to remember a week later, they literally aren't going to remember you. And so later on, when they don't respond to your email and you're like, why am I getting ghosted by all these VCs? It's because you didn't actually leave an impression on them. Your business might actually be a good fit, but it just didn't leave the impression that you meant to leave. So
yeah, telling more personal stories seems to be quite a through line through a lot of your guests and what you do on your show. Most come with a very strong story to kind of hook people. And speaking of kind of hooking, is there like a good opening line formula that you've come across in your time?
For me, I'm always trying to find like, what is the good opening line for this particular founder that matches with their story? But even just planning to the point where you have an opening line and you don't just get on and like word salad, spew whatever comes to mind. But I mean, I think starting with a big question or a big problem or something that like gets them out of their repetition of the day. You know, you can ask the VC a question to gauge their sense of understanding by your industry. That's one way to just like classic, like get them involved. I mean, I love it when founders do this. It's almost like that TED Talk thing where it's like, did you know that 90% of people in America have a dog? That's a horrible stat, but you get it. Like, it's usually something more important than that.
Right.
But I mean, I think painting a picture that shows like you're knowledgeable, you know what you're talking about, or a more common one is just telling the story of how you came to meet this problem. And I think the most savvy VCs realize in time how important it is personal motivation, like your reasons for solving a problem.
Right.
Not just that you're there to make some money. Like obviously everyone needs to make money, but what's going to set you apart from the entrepreneur next door is your attachment to the market you're serving and your reason for solving it.
Right.
And it doesn't need to be some magical, you know, like when I was younger, this person died in my life and it was because, you know, their B2B SaaS tools were not fast enough. Like it doesn't need to be that, but it should like, hey, I really care about go-to-market strategies because I don't know. It's going to feel fake from me because I don't really care about go-to-market strategies. But
sure. Yeah, there should be some passion there. You know, I spent some time at a conference here. It was at just a regular convention center, not like the Woods, like a conference you went to recently. That sounded really cool. But
Camp Hustle, shout out.
Yes, it's called the OOO Summit. I was there last week.
Was it Andrew Yang put this on? Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great event. A lot of the founders I talked to, one of the questions I asked them was, how much would you sell me your business for? What is the amount that you would sell it to me for?
Wait, for real? You just went up to like strangers and you're like, how much would you sell me your business for?
100%. That's all I did there for like 4 hours. It was great.
And what kind of responses did you get?
Actually, the answer that I got most of all was, I wouldn't sell it. I wouldn't sell it. It's priceless, which I think is the response you want to hear, kind of going off what you were talking about, because these people were so passionate about their businesses, about this idea that they had, about this pain point that they were fixing, that they didn't want to sell their business. They were like, no, I'm not in it to make money. I'm in it to solve a problem, which I think is exactly the kind of energy you're looking for here for a pitch.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to the other thing, which is like, be authentically yourself. Everybody wants to pattern match for what they think VCs want. And I know why you do that. I understand why. But like if you don't match the pattern of a VC, nothing you say is going to change that. But you might actually lose someone by not being who you actually are in the room. And the right partner for you is going to recognize that. So
it's going to be there.
I know it's hard because VCs are brutal and you've got to pitch hundreds of them. And how do you be yourself time after time after time? But you got to aim for that.
You know, let's talk about VCs today. Has what VCs look for in pitches changed at all over time, in your opinion?
That's a good question. I think my understanding of what a good pitch is has changed. And maybe this applies more to VCs than anything else. The thing I realized recently is that people pay a lot of attention to traction. How much momentum do you have? Like, how good are you at actually running this business? But there's actually some data that says that early traction is not correlated to the end result, a large exit. There have been several fund managers that have looked back at their portfolios and there was no correlation between companies that had early traction and their ultimate outcome at the end, which I think the lesson for me and how we evaluate companies is like the traction itself is a good measure for the price that you want to invest in this company and whether it's worth the investment at that given price, but it's not a measurement of opportunity.
Right.
And just because some company has some early success right out the gate doesn't mean you should ignore the company that doesn't have that early success.
Sure.
So I'm actually way more excited about a founder who, if I love the idea and I love the founder, I don't care that they're at the starting point. I'd much rather invest in them than invest in an idea I kind of like, or a founder I kind of like, but they've got so much traction. It's just pulling me in, right? I think we tend to think one is greater than the other, and it's the one with traction. And I think that's the wrong instinct to follow.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of this idea of traction versus vision.
Yeah.
And more so like, oh, it's a great idea and you have a great guy in charge versus they have a lot of really good numbers out the gate, which seems very attractive. And I'm sure a lot of VCs do fall for that. But I appreciate what you're saying.
Oh, yeah. I'm probably in the minority here for saying this, but we're also pre-seed and seed stage investors. So we specialize in early. So like our job is to think about stuff like this.
And next thing I wanted to ask is how transparent should your pitch be about like potential risks and challenges? Is there kind of such a thing as being too honest? Because we talked a bit before about some people say exactly what VCs want to hear, which might help in some areas, but also might hurt them in others. So how honest should you really be throughout these meetings?
The way I like to say it is like you shouldn't hide anything, but you also shouldn't put the skeletons up front. Like don't bring them out of the closet and be like, hey, look, here's the skeleton. Now do you want to hear my pitch? There was actually a founder, an episode of our show, the episode was called Bevs, I believe. I don't remember the episode number, but it's this exact scenario where the founder had some messy stuff on the cap table. He actually didn't own as much of the company as VCs would like to see, but he didn't tell them that right up front. He ended up actually getting a deal. Like the whole thing went super, super well, but then in diligence, they start to dig in and some of the VCs fall out because of it. But we had the discussion afterwards with the VCs and they're like, I don't think we would have committed at all had we known that up front. And perhaps the people that did commit and did end up following through also wouldn't have committed. So a good VC knows that there's stuff that they're going to need to uncover and unpack. You don't want to put that stuff out there up front. Like you're not trying to hide it, but it also is a strange signal when you talk to a founder that's just like, hey, here's all my dirty laundry. And you're like, why are you telling me this? So
right. It's weird, I guess, when it comes up unprompted, maybe.
Yeah. So be honest when they ask, but don't volunteer it. Like, do you want to know how bad my cap table is? It's nightmarish. It's pretty bad. Let me tell you about it.
It's terrible. Here's a screenshot of it if you want to check it out.
So many VCs before have passed because of this.
Don't let that sway your decision, though.
I know you guys are going to be different. No, maybe that's not the best example, but I think you need to be authentic. Yes, but no reason to expose yourself.
Totally. And one more thing that I wanted to ask you about. You mentioned before that you kind of changed your outlook on what's a good business, what's a good pitch over the past few years. What's one piece of pitching advice that you've given that kind of would go against conventional wisdom of how to actually conduct a pitch? Have you thought of anything that was like, you would normally do this in a pitch meeting, you would normally conduct yourself this way, but maybe here's a tidbit that you can throw everybody off with a little bit?
Yeah. I tell founders not to use their pitch deck.
Okay.
And if you're someone who really, really loves the pitch deck, do this instead. Just ask the VC, hey, would you prefer I use a deck or would you like to just talk? And worst case, that'll disarm them in a way that's refreshing and you'll kind of get hopefully a little bit of human connection. And then best case, they're like, yeah, I love the deck. Show me your deck. And then you're great. You can, go into your favorite pitch deck. But we find that when people are watching what's on the screen and people are looking to the screen to see what they're going to say next. Every time you look at the screen and digest the information, that's a moment you're not engaging with your audience. Right. So the same thing happens on Zoom calls. And yeah, you can memorize it, blah, blah, blah. But it's still going to be this passive thing. And really what you want to create that connection, particularly over Zoom where it's so hard to connect, you want to be looking at someone's eyes and you want to see them looking back at you. You want to see their facial expressions. So, it's partially because of our show and we're an audio first show that's just now doing YouTube. So we don't really do pitch decks on our show. So we force the founders to just talk to us.
Yeah.
And that's a really rare thing, but we found it actually works well. And some founders are kind of pushing the deck to the side. I find the deck is just better to send either before the meeting to kind of give them a brief intro or afterwards for them to dig in, but not during the call.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great shout right there, especially for a VC that's going through how many of these a day, or for you that's going through how many of these a day too. It must be nice to be able to just talk with the person that's conducting this and have kind of a more conversational appointment.
Yeah.
Rather than here's my whole 10-slide presentation on why you should pick my business.
Right.
Yeah, a little less robotic, a little more human. Yeah, I think it's a great shout.
Especially if it's a 30-minute call. 30 minutes is so little time.
Yeah. Probably better to connect with the person than to give a deck presentation. Because if you're going to give a deck presentation, Might as well just send over like a video or something like that instead of having a meeting.
Touche. There you go. And then one last thing. I don't know if this is counterintuitive or not, but I have to say it.
Yeah, go for it.
Say less. Say less than you're saying. Like, people get it. The VCs probably get what you're saying within the first couple sentences. And then founders just keep going on and adding the nuance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's much better in a conversation to draw out the nuance, to give them what they need, to give them the answer. And maybe if you want to hint that there's more, you can, but then be quiet. Like, let them either go deeper down the rabbit hole with you or ask a different question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they might not need the full story, again, particularly if you only have 30 minutes.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. You got to make the most use of that time, definitely. So makes a lot of sense.
Yep. Speaking of time.
Yeah, speaking of time, thank you so much for being here today. It's been such a pleasure to chat with you and hope to have you back sometime soon and enjoy the pitch grind. I hope you hear a lot more in the near future.
More pitches, back to back to back.
More.
Thanks, Jon.
Thank you. All right, and that'll do it for us today. Thanks for tuning into the Hustle Daily Show, everybody. We're a proud part of HubSpot Media. Our editor is Robert Hartwig, and our executive producer is Darren Clark. We've got a lot more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. If you're not subscribed, go get yourself signed up at thehustle.co/email and follow us on Instagram at thehustledaily. We will catch you later. Hey everybody, I've been listening to this great podcast lately. You got to check it out. It's called Content is Profit. It's hosted by Luis and Fonzie Camejo, and it's brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. So in this podcast, you can discover the secrets and strategies on how your business can achieve the frictionless sale. We talk about frameworks, strategies, tactics, and bring special guests to bring you all the information you need in order to turn your content into profit. Recently, they did a whole episode on micro creators and UGC and how those things are transforming the social media industry, especially for profit. They had a guest on, William Gassner, who is the co-founder of Stack Influence. So definitely check that episode out if you want to learn more about the social media landscape as it is currently. You can listen to Content as Profit wherever you get your podcasts.